right, thanks, Matt. And here we are. Yes, indeed, as advertised, round 7 on tap here. Sarah Shearing versus Matt Dow. And my only comment about the leaderboard is how did Max Khan even qualify to be on the leaderboard? Who did that?
Well,
This
it's
is just,
it's just players to watch. It's not necessarily
yeah,
players who
right.
we expect to do well.
Well, sure, I know, but it's actually fortunate for him that he actually won 3 matches, I would say, at this point in the tournament. And he's on there every round. I mean, he could have been 1-5 at this point. Anyway, all right, here we are. Murktide versus Hammer, a classic matchup of the format.
Been a very popular matchup in the 2 years since almost 2 years since Modern Horizon 2 has come out. These are 2 of the early decks. We see Matt comes in on a mull to 5, which is unfortunate for him, but he's got one of the stronger turn 1 plays in his deck, which is turn 1 Sigarda's Aid, which can really it can make the life really hard for the Murktide player when you go for turn 1 Sigarda's Aid, because it's really hard for them to ever spend their mana, because they sort of have to have a lightning bolt up available at all times, because the Hammer player is just threatening to attach a Colossus Hammer to a creature. They're threatening to do the thing the deck does. Sarah takes turn 1 to go ahead and get the Ragavan down, which is definitely an important thing to do. You can't leave up mana the entire game, because if you do that, then you are just going to lose. You have to do something at some point. And Matt doesn't have a 1-mana creature plus a Hammer here to punish that. And now we're going to sort of see Ragavan be unchecked, and the mana advantage is going to take over. Although Matt does have a turn 2 Saga. If he has a 3rd land to follow it up, which I imagine he does because he didn't play a spell on his 2nd turn, then Matt is going to be able to leverage that. That'll represent a Hammer. He's got 3 cards in his hand. Any of them could be a Hammer. If we saw it, we can rule out Stoneforge Mystic and Esper Sentinel. Those would have been in play. We can rule out any of the early creatures like that. And we're going to go for Dragon Rage Channeler here on turn 2 for Sarah, and a Mishra's Bauble to Surveil. Okay.
All right. So does Sarah have another land? Because talking about trying to, Ragavan can obviously put you ahead on mana, but it's not it's not super uncommon for a player to keep a 1-lane hand with a Ragavan and cantrips and things like that. Like, that would make sense for her to keep. But no, she does have a land. All right, so
yeah, she's got a Scalding
going to be pressing a mana advantage here. And everyone has seen Hammer win games on mulls to 5. This is not a huge outlier, but it does put you in a somewhat safer spot if you're in Sarah's shoes here. And yeah, while you still want to hold up some sort of removal for all the threats that you're talking about, there is some additional comfort here.
You know, Joe, I remember winning a game with Hammer on a mull to 5 at some point.
Oh,
it perhaps maybe in the same seat that where Matt Dow and Sarah are sitting right now. Do you have any recollection of this?
Well, I think I think what you're referring to is the fact that I only played one modern Nerd Rage event last year, and I top 8'd the event. That is the end of my memory of that event.
Do you remember how it ended? Do you remember how you were eliminated by chance?
I remember that someone else I know that doesn't really pay attention to Magic anymore was like, "Hey, I watched your match and it lasted like 6 minutes."
I'm sorry, I had to get that in.
Yeah. Well, that was pretty lopsided. Yeah, Hammer decks are pretty brutal, even in the hands of relative incompetence such as yourself. But with Matt Dow piloting here, there is a lot to be afraid of. But we see no play. We're just going to potentially see a construct into play. So does Sarah push the attack here with the creatures and then with the potential removal? And so if Sarah has one removal spell, let's just say, can you attack here and then use a removal spell on the construct, or is that too aggressive?
Well, it sort of depends on how many more removal spells you have in your hand. You know that at the very least on Dow's turn, he's going to threaten one Hammer coming off of Chapter 3, the Urza Saga. That assumes that all three cards in his hand are bricks, which maybe one or two of them is. It's unlikely that all 3 of them are. I imagine one of them is likely a Hammer. He's done nothing in the first 3 turns besides develop the Sigarda's Aid, just play the lands. He could have 3 more lands in his hand, and Sarah's going to be able to develop here, and she's got a blocker. She's got enough life where she could take a hit off of one hammered creature, although she's down to 14. So like a construct could easily get up to 14. Like that's definitely not out of their own possibility here.
Yeah,
but she's got just such a mana advantage here with the 2 treasures, the 2 untapped lands, and then she's got multiple cards in her hand. I'm trying to make out what she has. And I think we're going to see just a Murktide Regent. Okay. A
Murktide Regent? Did you actually say that?
Yeah, that's fair. This is going to be a very large threat. I mean, we see at least one Scalding Tarn, so it won't be maxed out. It's just a 5/5, and then we have 3 card types, and I believe I caught a glimpse of an Unholy Heat, which would be an instant to return on Delirium for the Dragon Rage Channelers. And now we're pausing on our own end step after Matt has created a construct here. We're deciding if we want to fight now. I would probably choose to fight now. The reason I would choose to fight now is because if we let Matt go to his turn, he could easily have like a Blacksmith skill and another hammer to play over the top of us. But I suppose if he has those cards and we have no other interaction, then the Urza Saga is threatening to get a Gingerbrute, which could kill us because we don't have any haste blockers. And yep, okay. And Sarah is going to choose to fight now, just to play over like multiple Blacksmith skills, which I think is smart. We're going to get the two. We're going to get the surveils. And I believe she's down to 1 or 2 cards in her hand. Yeah, it looks like 2.
So Matt, I mean, card advantage is important, right? Matt has more cards. Is he ahead now?
I would not call him ahead, although Sarah could very easily die this turn. I mean, we get a Gingerbrute, we have 2 hammers and a Blacksmith skill, something like that. Then, oh wow, she's just going to go for the construct, which is not really what you want to see here because I believe that the Dragon Range Channelers now have Delirium with the addition of the Unholy Heat, so that we're talking 11 power in the air, 2 on the ground.
Yeah.
So,
so this hammer is going to, or is that a Shadowspear? That's a Shadowspear, right?
Yeah, that's a Shadowspear. So that
yeah.
construct is it's 3/3 total. That was basically hoping here that he can survive, and then he can untap some hammers on this thing, and then we can get a big lifelink trample hit in, and then that will be good enough. Although Sarah has 2 cards in her hand, so I'm not sure that is super likely to work out.
Yeah, I mean it is possible.
Yeah, it is possible. But we're going to see main phase hammer now just to play around counterspell while Sarah only has 1 mana available. Very smart. That's one of the few cards that Sarah could feasibly have in her hand that Dow can beat by putting the hammer on it. And yeah, it makes total sense. I think we're going to see expressive iteration. We're digging for like a lethal lightning bolt, perhaps. Yeah, I think even Murktide Regent at this point to delve and trigger the other Murktide Regent would be lethal. So we have a lot of outs here and a lot of looks. I see a Ragavan and there's a Bolt. And so that should be lethal because the construct doesn't fly. And we're going to see Bolt you. And goes to 10 and attack you for 11. Do you want to attack with the Ragavan? No. No, we do not.
Yeah. As soon as that first surveil trigger was kept,
then you kind of know it.
It was done.
Basically, every time. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So and Sarah Shearing picks up game number 1, which I mean, huge feat against a Multi 5, but all you can do is win the games that are put in front of you, and there's
a good start.
Yeah, I mean, I am certainly one who has no problem trouncing people who mulligan to 4 or 5 cards. That's I'm perfectly happy to do that. I don't need you to keep 7 to feel justified in my victory. I'll take it.
A win is a win for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Matt Dow's. There's a typo on the sheet there. Maybe we can get that fixed later on. There's no N. It's not Matt Down.
Yeah, it is Matt Dow. We can see Matt Dow with just pretty stock blue-white hammer here. He's got 4 copies of Spell Pierce and 75. Very smart. That's going to be a key tool to fight over potential powerful sideboard cards out of Murktide, such as Dress Down. We've got Blacksmith skills with some various tricks, and overall, I would consider this a favorable matchup for Hammer, but it's definitely not a blowout either way. And Matt's draw there was a little weak, and Sarah's draw was quite good. Ragavan was able to connect, and she had multiple points of interaction, and it was good enough. A key card in this matchup for Dow is going to be turn 1 Esper Sentinel. On the play, turn 1 Esper Sentinel could be a complete nightmare for a deck that's full of just cheap instant sorceries, and even Mishra's Bauble. Mishra's Bauble is so bad into Esper Sentinel on turn 1. So if you are a Matt Dow fan at home, then that is the number 1 card you wanted to play on turn 1. You want to see Seachrome Coast, Esper Sentinel after keeping 7. That is the number 1 thing you want to see. If you're a Sarah fan, then the number 1 things you want to see are sort of going to become more transparent later in the game. Turn 1 Ragavan is good if it connects, but you want to see just favorable exchanges over time. You want to see Dress Down on your Stoneforge Mystic. You want to see I resolved an expressive iteration and was able to not die immediately to go over.
Let's go ahead and switch over to Sarah's deck. You can go ahead and keep talking, but let's go ahead and get Sarah's deck on the screen.
Yeah, so she's got 3 copies of Engineer Explosives, which is definitely one of the more potent.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That she means business for sure. I mean, she only has 1 Dress Down to go with none in the main. One in the main. So that'll be 2 copies of Dress Down total and 3 copies of Explosives. She's got an Abrade, which is fine. And then she's got a Fury. So yeah, she definitely is ready. And as you should be, if you show up to a modern tournament, you should definitely be prepared to play against the Colossus Hammer deck. It's really strong. It's really popular. It's really powerful. And if you don't respect it, then you're going to lose to it. And Sarah has chosen to respect it here. So,
all right. So while the players are shuffling up, if you're heading into a modern tournament, these days right now, what is the number 1 deck that you feel like you need to be prepared for?
The number 1 deck in my mind right now is Indomitable Creativity. Indomitable Creativity, it's just a combo control deck that sort of has the tools to interact with cheap spells like Spell Pierce and Remand, like we saw in Joe Bernal's 6-0 deck list. He has 2 copies of Remand. But then you also have Leyline Binding and Lightning Bolts. You're able to deal with small creatures. You have Ren and 6 for just great card advantage. And then you have effectively a combo that requires only one card to draw. You only have to draw Indomitable Creativity, and then because all of your fetch lands represent dwarf tokens. And if that's true, all you need to do is accumulate a few dwarfs, a few treasures over the course of the game. Fable of the Mirror Breaker, huge add for that deck. It's not only is it multiple things that you can target with your Indomitable Creativity, but it allows you to get the Archons out of your hand, and it's the perfect color, red, because you already want to be playing with Dwarven Mind, so you want to have your mana base of all mountains anyway. So it's really just a perfect add for that deck. And so in my mind, Indomitable Creativity is the number one deck in Modern right now.
Well, that's bad news for Tron players like me out there, because Blood Moons are good against
that is decks,
and so I'm just getting splashed out of the format here. I don't think we're going to expect to see too many Tron decks do well today, but I know we have a smattering of other decks. Rhinos is well populating the top tables.
Oh yeah, I was walking over earlier when I got into the building, and I think like every table at the first 5 had a Rhinos player, including a mirror, and I was just like, oh wow, what? I did not get a memo, but yeah, Rhinos is definitely a contender for the top deck, and I think it's got a slightly favorable matchup against Indomitable Creativity. So there's definitely something to be said for that deck for sure.
All right, open your hands are being drawn. Let's go back to the table to carry on through round number 7.
Yep, we're going to see
Matt Dow mount a comeback here. These players are 5-1, 9 rounds today. So a win here, it's not putting anyone into the top 8, but a loss probably means you're playing for top 16. So
yeah, a loss is definitely eliminated, but a win you get to keep playing, and potentially you have a win and draw in next round. A win, which means if you win this round, you need to win another one, and then you can ideally shake hands and get an intentional draw, and that should be good for top 8. So these players need to win this match and then another match, basically. And if they lose the next match, then they're out as well.
All right, so that may have been Sarah giving some thought to the opening hand there, and did choose to keep, but maybe it was a close one. Giver of Runes to open here, and it's going to be immediately dispatched. And all right, we'll
classic opening here. Display Giver of Runes. It's going to have to eat a removal spell at some point. There's no reason to let Matt have a Blacksmith mana to Blacksmith skill or Spell Pierce to fight over it. Let's just kill it now. Makes total sense. And Dow has a 2-mana play, maybe a Stoneforge Mystic. Okay. So if he wants to, if he lets in Kaldra Compleat, he could get that and force another removal spell out of Sarah's hand. But instead, he's going to go for Nettlecyst, which would sort of indicate to me and likely to Sarah that he does not have an equipper in his hand. And if he does, then he has enough hammers that he needs already, and he's sort of bottlenecked on creatures, and he wants the germ token off of the Nettlecyst.
All right. Well, so we did not have the ideal opening of Esper Sentinel from Matt. Conceivably, Sarah could have had a Ragavan, but prioritized bolting the Giver of Runes anyway. And we're going to see here as a follow-up another removal spell. Okay, so Stoneforge, get out of here.
Yeah, that's why I'm sort of an advocate for porting out Kaldra Compleat against decks like this, is just because people will often bolt main phase anyway, and it's very hard to actually go for that kind of play.
All right, so Mr. Dow, we can see in our new hand camera or face cameras here, contemplating his hand here, a little bit of an eyebrow raise, saying, "What is this mess? How do I proceed through this turn? What shall we do?" And the answer is leading on a Pithing Needle, which...
And we are going to presumably fetch in response so we don't get stone raised.
Right. I mean, not 100% of the time would Sarah maybe, for example, if there's an explosives in hand that she wants to play on one anyway, she can give up this land and then deploy it later and kind of get it back. I'm not saying that would be a good decision, but it's a possible decision. Yeah. It does. Okay. So, all right. Sarah decides not to fetch, and clearly was not, this was not a case of someone not realizing the interaction, because she thought about it and chose to leave it on the board. Yeah.
A conscious decision. Yeah. And she said, and it looks like Dow has chosen to say, I'm going to go ahead and name it Enter Explosives anyway. And basically what Dow can sort of infer from that is that Sarah likely has plenty of lands in her hand. And I think that's true. It looks like she's a little bit flooded. She got a bit of a mana heavy hand. I think she's got a dress down, a bolt, and some lands. And the Sanctuary Iron deck is going to be met by bolt plus dress down. And then Sarah, just resolved.
It could be end of turn dress down, right? And then
but you would want to leave the lightning bolts in your graveyard. So I would probably personally go for dress down in response, so it doesn't have the enters battlefield trigger.
No, that won't work, because remember the Delta. Oh, I'm sorry, Delta's live. No, you're right. You're right. Delta is live, so you're right. That could have.
Yes, I'm a little confused. Also, another thing that Dow could be figuring out here is that maybe Sarah has an Enter Explosives in her hand already.
That could be. I mean, certainly there were having explosives in hand, having something in hand, or even just down the line that Sarah wants to protect from Needle would explain a reason to not fetch a response here. So
yeah, that might have been a small error, but that's okay. I don't think she has a Murktide Regent in her hand or anything. Although if she draws one, then maybe that would be a little unfortunate. But Magic's very hard. We're in round 7 of 9. It's 5:30 p.m. here, and these players have been playing for 7.5 hours. Magic is a hard, exhausting game. And,
it is. It is.
Tournaments can be mentally taxing.
It was considered. The question was asked. All right, here we have the dress down. Yeah, so you're right. So maybe just a bit of a hiccup there on losing a couple cards in the graveyard, but we are also going to see the Sanctifier dispatched here.
But I might have been interested in second main phasing that, so we could dash a Ragavan if we wanted, but maybe she boarded out all of her Ragavans.
Conceivably, I guess that's true. Ragavan certainly not at its best against a deck with a dozen 1-drops and even 0-drops.
Yeah, I mean you're going second against a lot of cheap creatures, so it's definitely not unreasonable to have done that. Although I suppose if we were to have drawn Murktide Regent, which maybe those have also all been boarded out, then we wouldn't be able to have that enter with counters. Also Ledger Shredder. So I think I would have liked to see dress down, if not in response to the Sanctifier in the second main phase, but not a huge deal. And this Mishra's Wobble, yeah, I mean Dow missing, it's sort of land drop. He doesn't have a Urza Saga, and so Sarah is able to just sort of develop spinning her wheels with Expressive Iteration. This is sort of the exact thing I was talking about prior to the game. Is that's the exact kind of exchange that you want to see for Sarah. Is just these little 1-for-1s like plus ones, I guess. She's able to resolve Expressive Iteration and not just immediately lose. And she's able to develop her mana, and Dow is being kind of stalled here. So I imagine that it is going to be a little tough to get back into this game unless we draw Saga. We've drawn Arid Mesa. We know that Dow has all spells in his hand because he has missed a land drop 2 turns in a row. So we're definitely going to see some fireworks here. I'm not sure exactly what defenses Sarah has managed to pick up in the turn cycle since her hand was kind of weaker. I see a Heat, a Steam Vents, a Counterspell. Is that a Fire Ice? No, it's Consider.
Well, I think this looks like it was an announced Nettlecyst, and yeah, Sarah will fire off the Counterspell, get that out of here.
That out. Makes total sense. That card is pretty threatening. Turns all of Dow's potential. Yes, the card I thought was a Fire Ice was a Consider. That makes sense.
I mean, whatever Sarah is going on here, and obviously not with furious pressure here, but being at 16 life and Matt Dow having no creatures on the board heading into turn 5 or so, this is going to be great.
Oh yeah, this is exactly what you want. I mean, Dow's all of his early threats have been able to be dealt with by some cheap removal. The Sanctifier on deck, Sarah had one of her handful of answers in 2 copies of Dress Down, plus a copy of Lightning Bolt to take it down. And it's just looking very good for Sarah. She just got more mana. She's got cards in her hand, and she's got plenty of ways to interact with Dow. And the way that Hammer's able to sort of capitalize on this matchup is sort of pinning the Murktide player's mana. Although Sarah could definitely flood out here. Does she have a Fury in her hand? That would be interesting to sort of as a Necrotologist. As a 5 mana, deal 4 damage to target creature, and I'm left with the 3/3 double strike, because really what she needs is just a way to close the game. Otherwise, it's possible that Dow is able to draw Saga, and then things are going to get kind of awkward, because I'm not sure she currently has an answer to 2 constructs. See Spell Pierce, Heat.
Well, here's a different creature sourced from a land in Inkmoth Nexus that comes into play for Matt Dow. So that's something that's a threat. Not necessarily at the moment a one that is causing impending doom, but Sarah's going to have to keep an eye on that. It's something that she can't interact with except when Dow chooses to allow her to.
Yeah. Do you think, does that look like an Otawara to you? Because that could be a potential way to interact that could play through a Spell Pierce from Dow, potentially.
Oh, that would be, I haven't spotted it myself, but that would be interesting card to have in hand. There obviously are burn spells. There is another land, a Seachrome Coast for Matt Dow, with just absolutely nothing going on. And
I think I did catch a glimpse of a Puresteel Paladin. So when Dow does pick up enough Vines of Vastwood type effects like Blacksmith skill, then and he chooses to go for it, then he will be able to sort of build up this one big turn of fireworks. That'll happen eventually. Right now, we're just going to see a lot of sculpting, a lot of waiting for one player to decide that it's finally, the time is now. It is now getting worse for me as opposed to getting better for me. And at that point, then we will see a big fight, likely over that Inkmoth Nexus attacking for 11 poison. And, Sarah doesn't have. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say both as one consequence of the players just passing land drops back and forth here, as any taxing counters are going to go dead quickly. And I believe there is a Spell Pierce somewhere around. Both players have them in the deck, and this is just, I mean, Matt's 1-drops are getting worse because Esper Sentinel's not really meaningful anymore.
Yeah. Oh, it looks like we're gonna see. We're gonna go for Stoneforge Mystic. Okay.
All right. I mean, that's fine. That's something that, forcing Sarah to have a counterspell or at least Dow will benefit somewhat.
Yeah, so it's going to resolve. Dow's going to have the fairly important 1/2 creature here, honestly. I mean, just a creature to potentially tax removal spells, threaten to wear a hammer is quite good. Dow goes for a second hammer, which is kind of unnecessary, but I imagine that Kaldra got boarded out. Nettlecyst is in the graveyard, Shadowspear's in play, so it's likely the only equipment in his deck at this juncture. So that's just kind of, do you want to take this out of your deck and put it into your hand? Of course I do. And so he decides to go for that. And you can sort of, I don't know. You probably are imagining that Sarah might have dressed down in response there, but maybe she's saving it as an answer to potential Puresteel Paladin. Is that a Blood Moon? I think that is a Blood Moon, which would actually be really good because Dow does not have 2 planes in play, and he does have an Inkmoth Nexus. So it would sort of take the threat of the Inkmoth off the table, and then also cut Dow off of potentially.
Here is the Puresteel.
So it resolves, and we're going to start by targeting our Stoneforge Mystic with an equip. And we're going to put the ball in Sarah's court. I think I see a heat.
Yeah, but a heat isn't the greatest answer here. I mean, it works, but it's just going to end up, okay, the heat's going to take out the Puresteel Paladin.
Yeah, this is where if you're a Dow fan, you really want to see a Blacksmith skill from him. A Spell Pierce would not do much because Sarah, I believe, has 5 untapped lands at the moment. So it's really not going to accomplish much.
Sarah herself does have a Spell Pierce, though.
True.
So if that's getting value here from a Spell Pierce on turn 8 or so would be tremendous, as he's probably dead in hand otherwise. Dow's going to pass and then, pass the interaction.
Okay.
And the equip's on there. Okay, Stoneforge is now.
We're going to see that Otawara, I believe, and we're going to see that probably target the Colossus Hammer, so that way Stoneforge Mystic is not able to get another thing. Although if we take the creature off the board, there's certainly merit to that, because then it's going to be difficult for Dow to kill next turn, and we can assume that he's only getting more hammers, and it's not like he has a hammer in hand already, he has a hammer in play already, he's not really bottlenecked on that. But it looks like Sarah is going to go ahead and target the hammer over the Mystic. Fair enough. And then if she goes and slams Blood Moon here, it's going to get really, oh, that's a Fury. Okay, I think I missaw a Blood Moon for a Fury there.
All right, so Fury backed up with a Spell Pierce. Yeah, gets rid of the Stoneforge Mystic. Down with another hammer, and also still no way to equip the hammers, even if he has another creature to put in play, unless there's another Puresteel Paladin. Nexus is, live as an attacker, but for what advantage? I mean, it's attacking for 1 poison. Sarah's not going to care about that.
It's not a whole lot, and Sarah's managed to navigate this game really well to a point where and we're just going to get in for 2 poison and 2 life, which is really not what you want to see. We're Sarah untapped with 6 lands in play, multiple cards in her hand, and she's going to presumably have a way to stop a potential top deck Sigarda's Aid from Dow, which is what he needs at this point to put the hammer in his hand already onto the Inkmoth Nexus and make it 11 poison instead of just a measly 2. Expressive Iteration is the perfect draw. I mean, you really can't draw. I mean, if you could put 1 card on top of your deck, it would easily be Expressive Iteration. It looks like we're going to hit an Abrade, which we'll go ahead and
Abrade and Ragavan. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
I think we might even keep the Consider just to really lock them out. We have a clock. We have 6 damage a turn. I'm not sure we need to speed it up. I think that we just want to look for a little more interaction. But really, either way would be fine here. Abrade is definitely going to hand, though. I think that's pretty decided.
Sarah's consulting her mana, see how much she can really take advantage of here. But yeah, this Fury, like you're saying, this a pretty sizable clock. This Nexus with Shadowspear is not going to hold up against that. And the Ragavan does end up as the card to be played. So either Consider or Brave at the bottom, and it is likely Consider, right?
Not dashing is fascinating. Yeah, I assume Consider went to the bottom, and we have the. So so I imagine that the reason she wanted to keep the Ragavan is so now she has lethal in play. I haven't done the math, but it looks like there's 6, 8 plus 3 is 11, and then we're delving 4 or 5 things here. So yeah, I guess I don't really understand keeping the Ragavan because it's lethal, I believe, regardless of the Ragavan, because that would be 8 plus 6 is 14 to now it's 13. So I probably would have had to consider, but Sarah's passing with an Abrade up here. Dow really needs Sigarda's aid plus, yeah, he's just
2 spell pierces. Yeah,
and that's going to be game and match to Sarah Shearing, moving on to 6-1. One more win, and she should be able to draw into the top 8 of NRG Chicago, which would be a pretty big deal. I mean, if you manage to win this event, you get to play the championship, you get to play the 16-player, $25,000 tournament, and we're still a ways off of that, but one step at a time, right? And that starts by winning round 7.
I mean, that's a big step right there. I mean, one. I mean, just on the very base level, 6-1. I mean, that's pretty good. Awesome. And then you're like, okay, it's a 9-round event. I have to win the next one, and I can draw in.
Yeah.
If I lose, maybe I could still win the last round and get in. I mean, that's iffy, but certainly Dow a decent run today, but probably dreams of top 8 are over. But still,
not bad. Got to round 7.
Yeah,
but
still in position to make some points, earn some money. But Sarah Shearing looking really good. Okay, now we have backup match. Let's get it going.
Let's do it.
All right, second match of round 7. We have
Alex Brown on mono red midrange.
All right, is this? So I know there was a red Eldrazi deck in the field. Is this perhaps what we're seeing here?
That is a great question. I would be
interested in that. That's a temple, right?
Yeah, so, that is
okay.
We have 4 copies of my favorite card in the game, Matter Reshaper. Wow, yeah, this is just exactly the cards you'd expect. 4 Thought Next Year: 4 Bone Crusher, 4 Ragavan, 4 Reshaper, 4 Fury, 3 Smasher, 2 Obligator, 4 Chalice of the Voids. Chalice of the Void definitely going to be one of the key cards in this matchup. Setting it on 0 is going to shut off Crashing Footfalls, which Benji's deck is built around. Then 4 Fables, and then 3 Dismembers, and then just a bunch of lands with a lot of action in there. We've got a Den, a Blaststone, a Ghost Quarter, a Sokenzen, a Scavenger Grounds. And then 4 Eldrazi Temple to sort of ramp out the Eldrazi early. So yeah, really, really cool looking deck, and we'd love to see brews and just sort of interesting, less popular strategies doing well. And Alex Brown is doing exactly that. He has 2 temples. Do we think that we're going to see the Fable turn 2 Thought-Knots here, Joe?
Get out of here. I mean, you can't ask for one that. There it is. And
huge deal.
That's just a nightmarish start from years ago.
Oh yeah, this was the nightmare draw in 2016 when
when iVooing when iVooing was not yet banned. And we see here Benji Solomon, despite having the correct artwork for Basic Island, is
a great island. It's the one I use myself.
Hand here, and okay, we have a couple Dead Gons, we have a Violent Outburst, a Crushing Footfalls, and a Brazen Borrower. So the answer was there if there was a Chalice, but now there's no Cascading left. And
so Benji's actually going to go to not Brazen Borrower the Thought-Knots here. Interesting. Maybe he's planning on using 2 Dead Gons on it, but he doesn't have 2 red mana, so I'm kind of interested what's going on there.
Well, what would be on Brazen Borrower on the Thought-Knots here? That doesn't, when you don't have a Cascade spell left in your hand. You
don't really have a great way to punish.
We don't want to do that, I don't think.
Oh,
so here's
that.
Okay. Well, that is not the ideal draw for Benji Solomon here, and maybe not the ideal matchup either.
No, that is not what you want to see. You basically, when you're playing Crashing Footfalls, when you're playing Team of Rhinos, you never want to draw Crashing Footfalls. That's not true, but you basically never want to draw it. You basically always want to cascade into it with Violent Outbursts and with Charter's Agent. What you really want to do is you want to play it for 3 mana. You want to get the 2 things instead of spending 1 and getting it over 4 turns later. That's really not really modern power level. I mean, that's why Crashing Footfalls didn't see play in Modern really until Modern Horizons 2 came out with Charter's Agent, despite Crashing Footfalls itself being in Modern Horizons 1.
And now we've reached the first point in this match where Alex actually reveals what color his deck is, and that's down the Bugbear, right? And you saw Benji pull that across, like, what is okay? Yeah, kind of you read it a couple of times, you're like, well, I know this card. Why is this in your deck? What's going on here?
Benji's getting really paid off here for holding that Petty Theft. If he's able to line it up where he bounces the Chalice of the Void the turn prior to those Crashing Footfalls coming off, then he's going to be able to get the Rhinos. Otherwise, he won't. And that's really, he doesn't have that many answers to Chalice otherwise. The big problem here, though, is that he's under, his life total is under duress, and it's unclear if he will be alive for those Crashing Footfalls to come off suspend. I mean, he's taking 4 damage a turn off of the Thought-Knots here. I definitely would have liked to have started by going to combat here if I was Alex, but not a big deal.
Sure, that's reasonable. Yeah. All right. So because the Brazen Borrower is in hand. Yeah. All right. So Thought-Knots here. Coming across here, and I mean, probably not. I mean, okay, maybe there's an argument that Alex would prefer it got bounced now. The Thought-Knots here, so
I mean, you're just giving your opponent an option. Basically, you're just sort of limiting yourself a little bit. I think.
Right, but if you well, I mean, maybe this is irrelevant, but if you attack with Thought-Knots here, untapped, there's no way it's getting bounced during combat.
Yes,
if you tap out, otherwise maybe there's a higher incentive for Benji to bounce it since it can't be recast this turn. And since you want that to happen, if you're Alex, maybe you're trying to take up 1% higher that Benji goes for it. I mean, all this is probably irrelevant, but yeah, we are where we are. Chalice on the board and the Brazen Bar were still in hand. Let's see. Benji down to 11.
Yeah, and you know, Alex is starting an attack for 11 with just a single untapped land, or actually 8 rather. Sorry, not 11. I misspoke. So it's a 2-turn clock, which would currently kill Benji with those Crashing Footfalls on 1. Although he didn't play a land, so presumably he had some kind of defensive measure. I think we actually know about a second copy of Dead Gone, so I'd be pretty surprised to see Alex just fire up the Den of the Bugbear and into I believe a face-up second Dead Gone. That would be rather silly. So he'll probably just go ahead and cast a spell from his hand.
All right, so we are potentially rummaging here with Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Multi-format. Well, I guess All-Star in Standard and playable at worst in all the other formats. And actually, there's no discard to Fable the Mirror. To Fable.
Wow, that's a huge show of strength. Saying I like my hand. Saying I like both cards in my hand. I think I'm going to beat you with both. I think I have the tools to win this game. And, you know, he decides to go ahead and start off with effectively a 2-mana Thought-Knot Seer here, tapping just 2 Eldrazi Temples. And that seems like a fine way to start before you proceed. And we're going to see Dead Gone bouncing. Is he targeting the new one or the one that can attack?
Presumably the new one. And the hand is revealed. So the Brazen Borrower.
Why presumably the new one?
I'm sorry. No, you're right. Presumably the old one. That could attack,
I would imagine that you want to target the old one to save your life.
No, you're right.
Also, with Fable the Mirror Breaker here, we can really see the potency. We have 2 players at a stellar record of 5-1, both playing Fable the Mirror Breaker, card that is dominating Standard, dominating Pioneer, dominating Modern. It's really showing how good that card is. It's just so much value in one card.
What is the leftmost card in
that is a Murktide Regent, Joe. That is a somewhat new development for Team of Rhinos as sort of a alternative threat, I suppose.
Well, that would work right now.
Oh yeah, you can cast it right now, and I believe it would be a 5/5. Yeah, and we're actually going to see Murktide Regent taken by the Thought-Knot Seer. So Alex definitely respecting the power of that card in the Team of Rhino strategy, and seeing on this board that it's going to be pretty good. And you know, Benji, if you're Benji here, your goal is just to stay alive to get these 2 footfalls off, because and then we're trying to line up Petty Theft on the Chalice of the Void. Okay, so no attacks. Benji's staying alive, and he's not going to die next turn with the defenses that he has currently in his hand.
Yeah, so he actually may have navigated this to a position where he at least has a chance.
And he can go for an end-of-turn bounce on that Chalice of the Void, get 4 Rhinos, and then a Rhino trades with the Thought-Knot Seer and give you a card.
He can't go end-of-turn, though, because the other Thought-Knot Seer is going to be cast.
That's true. And then, and that could take it. He actually does need to draw another answer here, whether it's Beseiju. I don't think we can draw Otawara because we don't have a 4th land already in play. So we could draw another copy of Petty Theft. Yeah, we're drawing a little thin here. We could. You do have a window on your upkeep in response to the suspend triggers to bounce the Chalice, but I'm not sure that we're really gated on mana at all. We're just gated on actually just being able to answer the Chalice.
Right.
Maybe our best chance to win is Alex making an error. I'm not sure.
I mean, that's certainly something that's always a potential out to any scenario. But yeah, Alex sitting here at 5-1. Are we going to see? I imagine we'll see what would cause him to not play the Thought-Knot Seer. No, there it is. Yeah, so it is coming down. Benji will have to reveal the hand. And unless there has been an impactful draw, which
and he goes for the Petty Theft, which makes total sense.
Yeah, leaving with Fire Ices and that Fable, which we knew about, and that Alex knew about, and now this just attack through. Next turn, the Reflection will be active. Another bounce. So, okay, Benji's at the cost of cards is stabilizing the life total, but this is just.
Yeah, I mean, these 2, we put 2 cards into these Crashing Footfalls. Neither of them are going to get any value at all. They're going to get countered by this Chalice of the Void. We have no way of bouncing it. We have no way of destroying it. And so it's just going to have to happen here.
Let's see, even if there's an ice, there's not going to be a 1-mana answer to Chalice, right? So even on an ice, he draw a card here, there's still no way.
Yeah, he was thinking about potentially icing something on his upkeep to try to top deck a Beseiju, but he doesn't have the mana to do that, so decides to not go for that play. We do have answers for this reflection, so it's not going to take over the game. That is a pretty powerful interaction with Thought-Knot Seer. You can sort of lock them on their draw step, sort of reminiscent of Eldrazi Displacer in the blue-white Eldrazi deck that was sort of towards the end of the Eldrazi Winter, the more popular build, because it was powerful in the mirror.
All right, 2 temples and scavenger grounds for a
reality smasher. Now
yeah,
that
okay.
is scary. I am not.
How about 2 reality smashers? Yeah.
Not fully sure why we let Alex on top of this reflection, but I'm sure Benji has a good reason. And we're just going to go ahead and pick up and read Reality Smasher here. It is target of a spell, not spell or ability, and it's also, I believe, opponents. So Alex is free to go ahead and target it. Oh, okay, so we're going to go for this, but we have Chalice on 0, so that's not going to accomplish a whole lot. And that's game 1, going to Alex Brown. Well played there, and the main deck Chalice of the Voids there are coming up clutch. There's a lot of Team of Rhinos at the top tables, Joe, and so if you're an Alex Brown fan, you've got to be really stoked to see 4 copies of Chalice of the Void in his main deck against.
Against this field, against this matchup. I mean, again,
field of Rhinos players,
yeah, looking good. Okay, so Benji Solomon here with the Rhinos deck down a game. Answers to Chalice. We have Force of Negation in the main. We have 4 Brazen Borrowers. Let's see. What do we have? We have the Ottawara that you mentioned. And Boseiju. Okay, so a collection of things game 1 that can work, and then looking to board in. Okay, we have Force of Vigors. Can you justify boarding in Force of Vigor against a deck where, I mean, how many artifacts is Benji expecting to see? Or is Chalice good enough to board in Force for?
We did see Fable of the Mirror Breakers.
That's true.
We could target. Looking at Alex's deck list, he has 3 copies of Blood Moon. I'm not sure if those are going to come in this matchup.
We'll pop that up in a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you're right. There might be other targets, but okay. So barring the Force of Vigors, is there anything else here? Blood Moon kind of in Benji's deck. Blood Moon kind of works against Eldrazi Temple.
True.
It's not super, and your opponent's playing red, so that doesn't.
Yeah, I'd be pretty inclined to stay away from Blood Moon if I were Benji. His sideboard is just very focused. 4 copies of Endurance, it's there for graveyard decks. 4 copies of Mystical Dispute, there for blue cards. Force of Vigor is the card that's sort of on the margins because there is a powerful artifact to destroy within Chalice of the Void, and you can kind of answer Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Answer Fable of the Mirror Breaker, but not all the way. And then Blood Moon,
None of this sideboard is designed to play against red Eldrazi, which isn't shocking.
No, not at all.
So let's go ahead and look at Alex Brown's deck list and see what there is to work with here. And as far as what other, it's important to note this is a closed deck list event. So Benji does not know everything that Alex has. Aside from the Chalice of the Voids and the Eldrazi creatures. So I guess there's Fables. Now looking at Alex's deck list, if Benji had access to this, would the Force of Vigors come in?
I'd be inclined to say no. I don't.
Yeah.
I would, but maybe Chalice of the Void is just so good that you have to board it in Force of Vigor, but you sort of are naturally insulated somewhat with the Beseiju, the Petty Theft, the Ottawara. You have a few answers already, and you can maybe just plan on fighting over it with Force of Negation. Those 2 copies of Engineer Explosives for Alex are going to be a huge deal because you can play it on 0, and then you can go ahead and answer the Rhinos pretty easily. One trick you could do here is if you have a Chalice on 0, you can go ahead and spend 1 mana off of a colorless land to get it down on 0 through your own Chalice because the converted mana cost would be 1, but 0 colors would be spent on it. So that way you could sort of maneuver around that way.
I love explosives tricks that involve mana being different. That's just there's a whole variety. I mean, you can write a whole book on its interactions with Thalia, and I just love that stuff.
Have you ever played around a Spellqueller by doing it for like 5 mana or for 5 mana?
I have not, but that's a good one.
Yeah, that is a nice one. It's a little Spellqueller, not super popular these days, especially in formats with Engineer Explosives, but it used to be, and that was a nice nice trick you could pull off.
So Blood Moon's here bad on both sides. Generally, anytime if both players have Blood Moons in their sideboard, then whoever brings them in probably made a mistake.
Presumably.
So I don't expect we'll see those here. Warping Whales, maybe. They do counter the most important
spell. I would probably board in Warping Whale. I mean, you're able to fight over. And we're back to the match. Awesome. And we see Benji lead on Misty Rainforest. He does not have a Crashing Footfalls in his hand. He would have spent it on turn 1, although I suppose he might have chosen to save it for Force of Vigor if you do have it. If
yeah,
you
that's
were
true.
unfortunate enough to draw it.
That is true. But yeah, this, in any number of ways, this matchup sees tilted in favor of Alex Brown. And
yeah, I'm
Gauzy
inclined to
Temple
agree.
again. So yeah, this is we didn't see the mulligans, but I assume if there weren't any, then well, that's another. If these decks just play against each other straight up, no players make mistakes, Alex will probably win more than Benji does. Now, Magic games aren't played in a vacuum like that. PL players do make mistakes, and there is variance. So we'll see what happens here, and it's going to be a Dash Ragavan on turn 2.
Yeah, turn 2 Dash Ragavan. I am okay, and Benji is not ready with a Dead Gone or something. This is pretty heads up because what Alex is doing is he says, maybe he had it on turn 1 and he's decided, I am not going to let you Fury my Ragavan. I'm saving this in my hand. I know that you don't have as much instant speed removal as perhaps other decks, and so I mean there are still 4 copies. There are still like Fire Ice, Bone Crusher Giant, Dead Gone. So there are removal spells, but Alex is sort of intentionally, I believe, trying to get around Fury at this juncture. And Benji, without a third land, is interesting. And we actually saw turn 1 Misty Rainforest, turn 2 tap Breeding Pool, which sort of makes me inclined to think that that he drew the Breeding Pool. So I believe that it might have been a 1-land keep here, and we're going to see what he's got. I don't think Benji's able to stop this Thought-Knots here from hitting the board unless he has a subtlety, perhaps.
Even that's not very exciting here, but you're going to see.
Oh my! Well, so he did go for the Force of Vigor. He does have the Crashing Footfalls. He's saving it for the Force of Vigor. And actually, what he can do here, so he has redundant Cascade cards. So no matter what Alex does, unless he has a Chalice of the Void, he's not. And even if he has a Chalice, he's going to get bigger. So he's not going to be able to keep Benji off of Cascade cards. And what Benji's going to be able to do if he wants to is he can go Petty Theft your Thought-Knots here. That gives me an additional look at my third land, which is just so critical. Yeah. And then if he gets to untap and slam Rhinos on an empty board, that could be a really good development for him. So he goes for the Force of Vigor and then maybe slams a Chalice.
I mean, certainly that would suggest that there is that follow-up.
Goes for just Ragavan. So if you're taking Force of Vigor,
you have to have Chalice. I mean, you would expect to see Chalice here, right?
I would be pretty. If I'm in Benji's seat, I'm thinking about Chalice. I think we're all
there it is.
There's a Chalice. I'd be pretty surprised. I mean, otherwise it'd be like Blood Moon, and it'd still be a little weird. Just
big sigh here for Benji. I mean, this is you got a rough pairing, and your opponent is drawing well, and I mean, you're also paired against an opponent whose deck there's almost no chance you've practiced against, maybe never even played against ever.
And that's one of the benefits of coming up with sort of a non-conventional brew like this and playing and bringing it to a tournament is that your opponents, they aren't going to be ready for it. They're going to have to read some of your cards. They're not going to know everything. Yeah, and Benji has decided this is his window. I'm going to bounce a Chalice of the Void. I'm going to draw a third land on this turn. It's getting worse for me. I'm not going to let you untap and play another card. I need to draw my third land this turn, and when I do, I'm going to slam my Shardless Agent, and I'm going to be at parity on the board. I like the play, and it doesn't look like he's hit. I believe if he had drawn and we're going to go for the Fury.
Wow, there's another shot to the land.
Okay, we're still live. And untap land for 10 power.
Come on, Benji.
Oh, no, the Ketria Triumph. Oh, no.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing, Fancy Benji, but that's really unfortunate. Okay, so
that's so brutal. And the Chalice, it comes back down, and then the Cascade spells are.
Yeah, that was the window.
Here. That was really, and we just have the we used all our resources to try to get.
Yeah.
I like that play from Benji. If
it makes sense.
Scalding Tarn over Ketria Triumph, then it looks great. We have a totally different game on our hands. But
yeah. I mean, unclear if that's even enough to take over the game, but it keeps him in the game.
Now it's just it's completely I mean, we have this 3-1 flash that we can do end of turn, but we're losing the race very handily to the Thought-Knots here. Alex has more cards in his hand. It's a tough scene here. I do really like how he played this game, though. How Benji played this game, and we have another Ragavan. Perhaps why he was willing to expose the other one to removal, and he gets to crunch in here for 6. And Brazen Borrower is not going to be able to block because he can only block creatures with flying. We had a Misty Rainforest, so at least we didn't hit a threat. The one saving race here for Benji, I suppose.
I guess. I mean, this is here's a Reshaper. I mean, Reshaper is not the most impressive creature. But it doesn't matter. I mean, Benji's got nothing going on.
I think we might have been supposed to return that Ragavan to our. Is that true or no?
Yes, I believe you're
I
correct.
thought it was, yeah, because we tapped all our lands for the deck. So I believe, I mean, this is a time shifted match, and so that is not really something we can fix. But
yeah,
I mean, Alex isn't gated on mana here at all, so I don't think that's
no,
going to be have a huge impact on the result of the match. But yeah, I think that he might have to pay the mana to dash here again. But this is exactly 9 coming across, and Benji's life total, wouldn't you know it, is 9, and Benji's going to go ahead and extend the hand.
All right, well, that is going to do it for that match. Alex Brown, I mean, no offense to Benji Solomon, but Alex Brown crushed Benji Solomon this round.
That looked like a really brutal matchup, and Alex played well and had good draws. Benji also played well. It just didn't work out. Again, when you play a Cascade deck against 4 main deck Chalice of the Voids and they draw them in their opening hands and have Thought-Knot Seer to go ahead and take your potential answers, and it's just gonna be tough.
Yeah, it is, and it was. All right, so that's going to conclude round 7. Another thing we want to mention, kind of some changes on the NRG series this year. We are running RCQs now as side events at each of the event weekends.
4 RCQs. That's so many RCQs.
It is. There are a lot of invites available. If you are interested in qualifying for it, we're in season 3 qualifying right now. I believe at the end of it for this is for Dallas, right?
Yep. Currently, we're qualifying for Dallas. Up to 9 RC invites, and I'm not sure, but I think that's in addition to the 3 that you get. The 2 for the finalists. No, it's not in addition. That's not.
No, I think this is total. But yeah, there are numerous ways to. There are increased side event offerings now. So we had the kind of the commander, the prize wall, the more casual events are kind of built. They started being built out in the second half of last year. That is starting to see some success. There are also now side events that are more built out for competitive players who may have not done as well as they were hoping to in the showdown or the trial. So there are other RCQs starting in the afternoons.
Yep.
There are other point events. So there are certainly a lot of things available. If you are interested in coming out to the NRG series, we have tournaments on offer, hopefully whatever you might be looking for. Qualifying for Dallas. I mean, these RCs are kind of the replacement for the Grand Prix circuit effectively.
Yep.
To some people pretty happy with them, some people a little dissatisfied. Either way, it's what there is. And
I like the events personally.
Yeah, I do too.
I think they're really fun. I'm sure you do. You qualified for the Pro Tour.
Well,
yeah, one, right?
Yes, I did. And yes, I'm fairly happy with this system right now, but I'm biased because it's been working to my advantage so far.
But yeah, IO2 dropped and I like the system, so we can balance each other out.
We'll talk about this when we come back. The deck you showed up. Well, yeah.
I mean,
you're gonna have to justify this to me again. I know I saw it on site.
Well,
my deck's either great or it turned out I'm playing a meme deck and I'm out of here. But we can't all be heroes.
The good news is the DreamHack is a really fun thing. So
yeah, it was. The DreamHack was very cool. Anyway, RCQs are available. Invites being given away to attend them throughout the Nerd Rage events this year. Anyway, time for a break. We'll be back with round 8. Stick around. Hope you're enjoying the coverage. We'll be back.